Today, I've got a couple little mice here. This is the mouse we made last Wednesday. Weeks go by super quick now, and I did not quite realize that. So, we are going to try and make the bellhop outfit. I guess it's a circus outfit. It's kind of hard for me to gauge. Bellhop, circus. It looks like both somehow. We're going to make this suit for this mouse. That was the request by everyone who was watching last time. Here's the mouse that I made just beforehand. So we're going to sew on some buttons. I've got a whole jar of buttons here, so we can use that. And then we're going to see how this kind of plays out. Made some adjustments. Next time I'll make another mouse maybe. Go ahead and see if I can get that guy to stay on here. Now the downside is, because this is going to be done here, I'm going to go through a whole different process than what I normally do on live. When I made Pikachu live, I actually did the whole thing from sketches to pattern, all while live, and I realized that took forever. So we're going to do a few things here, see what we can get it to work like. Really not exactly sure how this is going to work. This is what we're trying to do. What I'm trying to do. But I have to kind of go through a few extra steps. Let me see here. What is this popped up? Oh, that's just what's happening right now. Got it. I never know if there's anybody here. It doesn't look like there's anybody in here, but at the same time, we're going to find out. All right, so let's see. I don't have anything to do the stripes here. They're not stripes. They're supposed to be like chains or like embroidery. Looks like there's a collar, so we're going to try and draw it out with a collar. That's going to have to probably be added on separately. Let me see if I can get a better angle of this. Let's see what I can get going on here. Again, we're going to give this mouse... Chip, please stop barking. And give that mouse the Coraline outfit. It's going to take a little bit of figuring out. I have to do sketches. Chip, that is enough. It doesn't make it any less aggravating when the dog is kind of barking off in the distance. Okay, so for Weird Wednesday, we're trying to do Coraline. Let's do some figuring. I'm going to have the cut here. Wrap it around. Going very simple. I'm going to do half of it to start off with. Chip! I may wind up having to sew this on. And then we have a collar here. Chip, please stop barking.
Chip, stop barking. Can't stop yelling.
Yeah, it's a whole lot going on in the house right now.
Mommy.
Chip, Vance.
Mommy, I'm hungry.
I'm not going to do any of the stripes right here, so we're just going to kind of try and make the basic shape. I think that if I do the collar afterwards, I can sew that on across the top here. If I do a rounded outfit, I can do down, a little bit in. That'll give me this bottom part here. Oh, I got to put that on the screen too so you can see what I'm talking about. There we go. I think that shows enough of what's going on. I can't imagine how this is going to work out. The truth is, I've only made a couple outfits for a couple different plushes that I've made. And I also know that working live on something like this is very different. I think that when I made a vest for a mouse once, I was able to work with this basic shape. Now, this is a different mouse, of course, so I'm going to have to do some adjustments for that. But I think this is what we're going to do. I can do some sort of stitch here to close it up. I'll just fold in, and then I'll just do a ladder stitch or something just to close it. I'll fold it in, and then stitch along here, so I got solid lines, and then I will just add the collar separately. But if I fold it down, if I just cut this out, I can fold it down. The downside is that because of that shape, I'm going to have to try hard to get that edge clean. and I'm not 100% sure how that's going to work in the overall. Working this small on something, there's going to be a lot of hand stitching, but I'm going to start off by getting a gauge of what size my mouse is. This should be enough information for me to cut a few extra pieces too. So here's my, I'm going to have to wrap around. So here, I'm not even sure what's going to show up on camera here. I've done a few drawings live, and I'm not sure what does or doesn't work. And if this is the outside line, go with this for the chest. Then I'll just have to double it up, I think. There were a couple people that specifically requested this one, so with luck, they'll show up and I won't feel completely foolish the whole time. And my intention is to do what I'm going to call a Weird Wednesday. And I'll do horror plushes and monsters. Last week, I did the Coraline jumping mouse, which is just shy of horror, but at the same time, it's close enough where it's a little bit fun. And we could definitely call it weird. So that's why we're making the outfit for it now. I was going to do that off camera, but I had a couple people request that I do it on. So I'm working on figuring out how I want that to look. I'm going to do a little bit extra size on this. Now the reason is because I'm going to cut this paper as the basic format for it. So I'm going to fold this over. I'm going to do one long strip. And I'm just going to cut the exact same thing. And what I can do afterwards is I can cut sections of this off to get this triangle where I want it, compared to the idea of having to circle back to it and redo. Now, since I'm working with the paper first, I do definitely have the option of just taping stuff to it. So that's going to be helpful as well. When it gets to the point where I'm doing the fabric, it will make a bit of a difference. Pattern making is not going well for me today. What were you trying to work on? Kat, what were you working on with your pattern? Because I get that. I have days when I'm trying to make a new plush. Just this plush, I made it like 10 times. Maybe just 7. But I get that. Still working on a male egg inspired ice. Male leg? Am I reading that wrong? I got to make sure I use the right scissors. I've got fabric scissors and I've got regular scissors. Trying to make sure my camera doesn't move around too much. So let's go ahead and make that a little bit bigger. Let's make the whole thing just a little bit bigger. Again, I'm going to be cutting this out in paper. Now I found that I can use the paper pretty well to wrap it around for clothes. For something this small. If I was doing clothes for a person, I'd have to cut sections and readjust and everything else. But for this, I have the benefit of being able to basically get it to take the shape that I want. Just at least close enough to where I can tell as I get it wrapped around. I think I'm going to have trouble doing the sleeves. But we'll find out here in a minute as well. The first thing I made for a mouse was actually just a vest. Hey, Cat B. Cat was just telling me that they were working on they wrote. It's a business. They're super cute. Oh, okay. So like you're making a mouse based on something that they've done in the past? Here's my center line. Looks like I can go ahead and put a hole right about here. And it looks like that's pretty even. So let's put my hole here. Search them up, loads will come up. I'll have to look into that. I am curious. I like when getting to see what other people are working on. And the downside is I do know exactly how you feel about things not coming together right. Because there are days when I just cannot get it to work, which is also part of the reason why I'm worried about doing something like this completely live. Not only do I not know how much fun it is to watch, but I know that it's going to take me forever to get it figured out. Even doing the Pikachu that I made, the not a Pikachu on my Monday, a few years, or I guess about a month ago now, I felt like I was just kind of sitting there failing over and over again, even though it turned out okay. So as you can see, when I'm just kind of starting off, just making a few cuts. I'm used to making bags. Working on something so small as articulate is such a brain teaser. It is. And when you're working with fabrics, things just don't want to move the same way. So the paper's not going to stretch. It's not going to actually take the shape of what I'm doing. So I just kind of have to guesstimate, get it close enough, and then from there I can remake. I'll make my first one in fabric, and then I'll just kind of keep recutting and reshaping and readjusting. And again, this is supposed to be the bellhop costume, circus costume for the jumping mice. And I keep saying bellhop because it reminds me of a bellhop. I know that it's circus, but that's what it keeps reminding me of. Fortunately, I've got the mouse that I did make. So you can see I get the basic shape here. Here, let me go ahead and try and readjust what everyone's looking at. It's very hard to work and be able to see the screen. It's doing curved lines. The machine just eats it does. And if you're working on something this small, it really, really does eat the fabric. All right, so I can see already I've got way too much material back here. Even if I fold this down, here, let me go ahead and just take this off and fold it for the collar. If I fold this down, I'm going to have too much. The basic distance here is okay. And even the collar is not bad. I can adjust that shape for that collar for the material, and I can just sew a stitch across the top of it. And then sewing these together, if I just hand stitch it on there. So a lot of this does work, but the downside is that I've got so much space back here, I will probably have to just cut a wedge and shape it this way. It'd probably be easier than trying to readjust because that's pretty nice. If I cut the wedge out here, I can sew that together. I just have to make it a little bit wide. I'll have these ends, and I maybe made it too long. So when it comes down, it probably does come down a little bit too long. I think in comparison, obviously this is too big. I made this part too big on purpose so that I could see what it would look like. And if I sew a hem, like an edge right here, just sew that on the, right, like a little fold, I can get a nice little clean edge that I can then hand stitch together. He won't come out of the outfit, but it should actually take shape pretty well. So here's what I'm going to need so far. I need... Got my arms in a good place. I've got just enough material here. It'll pull tight. Yeah, if it doesn't come off, I'm totally okay with that. I can always adjust later for different details like that. Maybe figuring out a way to make these tiny little spot things here so that they do unbutton. But for the time being, I think hand stitching it closed will help out a lot. I'm going to get the shape. I've got a good shape here. I'm going to have to, see, I probably want right about there. I think the length is good. It looks like it goes to about the top of the leg. And if I fold this up a little bit anyways and give it a nice hem, that should help. So I'm going to need a little bit extra on this so I can fold that in as well. I think there's a lot of little things that I'm going to wind up having to do all just by hand. So if I let me make sure that I don't confuse myself on which ones I want to get rid of. Get some of these lines out. And then right here, I need it down the back, so I will make sure I keep enough of this so I can stitch that closed and then right side it out. If I fold the top down, it may still be just a little bit high, but at the same time, it's right up to his neck. Mine is a different shape. I think that if I made the whole thing one piece, so like the head and the body were one piece, it would have that same shape. But for mine, I think I'm going to have to... I think I can adjust it when I cut it out. So I will need a collar here. Nope. If that's going to be sewn together, I need to cut the collar right here so that that's level. And then I have extra here for that collar. I think a lot of this I can actually just keep using this piece for. That particular part of the collar I might need some extra material for. So let's cut some of this. What I'm going to do is leave just enough that I'll have plenty to sew, and it'll go on the inside so that basically when I right side it out, it'll be a nice solid flat line. That seemed to fit pretty decently. And let's go ahead and cut a little bit extra here. So now I'll have enough to fold this in. And so I will have the collar down. I'm still trying to figure out how to do both the collar. Because I need the collar on the inside so that I've got a nice clean line here. And then, let's see, trying to show what I'm working with here. So I'll have that line. I'll have the inside that I'll sew together. Maybe what I can do is add the lapel, I think that's the word for it, as a separate piece. That might work out. So basically what I'll do is add the lapel behind, and I'll just sew two pieces together like this. So that'll give me the collar. And I could even do the same thing down here. But my current plan is to sew like that triangle and then this triangle, or vice versa. And that should give me just a little bit of a wedge. Got just enough material in there. I'm going to have to do some extra cutting to kind of get it to fit. And then I can do the same over here all the way across. I think for the time being, we're at the let's do and see what happens phase. I think there's not a whole lot I can do for the guessing right now. It is definitely aggravating to not know, but I've been making new stuff often enough that I know that there's a point where you just can't guess. One of the things I will probably have to do is do all the details, either hand stitch or at the very least off camera. And the next thought I had is, what if I sewed two of these and then right-sided it out? It would be thicker, but it's not like I have to worry about it being too warm. And if I do two, I don't have to worry about a thin layer folded down like that. You know what we're going to do is we're going to try this first. We're going to see what happens. I say we, I'm going to try it, and we will see what's going to happen. I don't even know how to express that. It seems like very presumptuous. I don't know why. It seems just weird to say. I guess we're all in this together is how I feel about it. And hopefully you don't mind too much when I say it that way. Now, one of the things about this is I know that the process for making an outfit for a plush, especially something this small, is going to be very different than what you might do if you're making clothes for yourself, family, and stuff like that. Heck, even a bigger plush would be a slightly different process. But seeing me kind of wing it might put a little confidence in your steps so that you can do it at home. Get to that point where, you know what, there's really no set rules. I can try a few different things, and if it fails, it fails. No big deal. One thing I would suggest is if you are making something and you're using an important material, let's say you're making like a teddy bear. You know, they make those memory bears, and you use somebody's t-shirt for something like that. Instead of cutting on the material you're using, I suggest you just use a piece of scrap material. Just get a bed sheet or just buy some cotton by the foot. Just something simple. And the relevance is because you don't know how many times it's going to take when you fail. And I'm going to show you as an example. My very first starting point to make this was I used the pattern I have here to make my small mouse. And I thought maybe I can just make some adjustments. So I changed the legs. Clearly not what I wanted. Hey, Spaz. The next thing I did was make it bigger. It's like, okay, I don't like how the arms are hanging. The legs are still not right. I decided to make an adjust. I realized that the arms could stay the same, so I tried it at the bigger size. The arms were too long, but at least it let me know that I could keep it close to how I did the mouse. Then I made this. You can see how much closer it is to the final version. I tested different ways to do the legs. Neither of them quite worked, but I was able to get from there to about this point. I actually made this one before I made this. This is the newest one. And I still feel like there's some adjustments that can be made on it. But the relevance is if you're trying to make something and you have special material, just use some cheap material. Yes, that means you have to do it over and over again, but it's honestly way better than running out of your special material. And I'm saying that in particular in regards to stuff like memory bears. I don't know why it popped in my head that way, but that's what happened. I was doing some silver work, making some jewelry, and I had this idea in my head. And the first thing I did was cut out exactly what I thought it was going to take. Used a piece of paper, drew it out, all that stuff, pretty much the exact same way I did here. And when I finished it, I did it in silver, and it just didn't work. There were some obvious things that needed to be changed. And I realized that there was no point in me using all that silver, which was already expensive, to do it. So I went and got some copper, which is way cheaper. Not free, but definitely cheaper. And started working with that for a little while. And that helped out so much. See, that's got to be another problem. I'm going to have this circle here that's going to be unstitched. And that's just going to have to be how we start off with it. For the vest that I made, for one of the mice that I have made, I wasn't worried about things being finished on the edges because I figured it was kind of like if this mouse worked, because it was a Lowe's vest. So I'll actually use the same material. My thought was, well, if he's a mouse that's working with someone, he probably doesn't have an official outfit. So a lot of edges would be just unclean and unkempt or unfinished. And I thought it looked really cute for it. Well, this guy, we want him to be finished. So I may have to go through a whole lot of extra steps to get that to work. I'm going to spool my... Come on. Go and get this out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and spool some red in here. There are some things that I think I can do using the machine. So I'm just going to go ahead and do them. What's funny is I even with the projects I already know how to do, for example, I've already got a pattern for my jumping mouse. Even with projects like that, I don't know how long it's going to take when I'm live. I've got so many extra steps I have to take, so many things I'm trying to view and move around. I got this camera in my way. I got lights in the way. So I have a feeling I'm not going to actually have enough time to do the whole outfit. And this time I probably will just do the hat off and show that when I'm done. But I'm already looking at a few things on this outfit because I didn't look at it at all. I thought it'd be kind of fun to do the whole thing live, the whole process. So I didn't even look and get a basic idea before we got on today. In fact, I just downloaded this picture moments before I got on. And add some light here. Move all this stuff forward just a little bit. Pencil, paper. All right, let's go ahead and start off with this first little bit here. I think I'm going to fold the top in. I have pretty much decided that to make the collar, I'm going to cut another piece and sew it on. So I can do the edge of the collar, the top of the collar here, and not have to worry about trying to get that triangle out, the lapel out. Again, I'm pretty sure it's called a lapel. If I'm wrong, it's not the worst thing in the world. I'm going to do just a small section first, make sure that I have thick enough where I can actually work it. Part of the thing is that I want this to look a little bit cleaner than the other outfit I've done was. So I'm not exactly sure what steps it's going to take to do that. Oops, there we go. Ah! So much in the way. I do have to do this very slow. This is just one layer of material, and it should be strong enough to work with. But at the same time, it's not like a finished edge. It's not double-sided. So there's going to be some fraying areas if I'm not careful. But that gives it a nice top. Yes, it's not a perfect stitch, but I think that that'll be okay for the time being. Do the same thing over here. All I'm doing is just enough of a pin in place to know that it's going where I want it to go. So I can just follow the straight line. I don't know if any of you have ever made clothes for a plush before. This is only my second time trying. I can imagine that there's probably an actual way to do this kind of stuff. And that it's probably not far removed from if you were making clothes for a human. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, it's just a plush. Oh, wow. I did not realize how big my stitch was. That's why that felt like it was moving so fast. I had it set to 4 accidentally. Oops. All right. Now I will sew this so I can right side it out. With luck, this will give me the overall shape that I need. I am still back stitching, which I'm not sure I really need to do. Especially if I wind up having to undo everything. Because one of the things I've found is that whenever you are doing something like this, and if you find that something works or doesn't work after you've cut it up, for example, I might, if I were to cut the section off, like let's say right here, how it blew out, that let me know that I had too much material here. And if I wanted to cut it out so that it would fit, I could just fold it over, cut it, and then I could unstitch the whole thing. So if you're working with the cheap material, you want to have like a wider stitched as well. And the reason is because it will make it easier for you to undo so that you can find what did or didn't work or adjust your pattern from that. Me, I'm kind of going a little bit willy-nilly with some of this. I should be able to tell a few details as I go. Okay, and we got the two of these. I'm going to stitch this in. This is where I'm going to hand stitch it when I put it together. Again, the plan is I'm going to sew this like hem, I guess would be the word for it. Finish this edge. And then from there, I will hand stitch right down the front. This would be one of the spots that I'd say that I could do just hand stitch the whole thing. Just do a hand stitch right there. But if I'm lucky, the more I can do with the machine, the easier it is. But only when it does actually make things easier, which is kind of funny in its own way. I've tried to make things work that were clearly not going to. And I'm hoping that I have learned my lesson about that and don't do that anymore. And I'm not just talking about sewing. Live your life. Again, because it's so small, one of the things I should be doing is probably a zigzag stitch. But I'm so close to the edge and it has so little material that I can't do the zigzag stitch without leaving it away from the boot, which will also make it harder to stitch. And I'm doing everything I can to make as much of it as easy as I can. So while you're here, anyone that's watching, my intention is to do a Weird Wednesday project, if not every week, at the very least every other week. And I say that because my Not a Poke Mondays, I make a new pattern every Monday or every week so that I can make a new Pokemon. And this was my Snivy from Monday. And I don't always finish it online. Like I gave him his mouth, I added his legs and his hands and everything. And the thing is that takes about a day minimum to figure out. That's me drawing up the pattern, me cutting out, just like I did with this. Now, one of the things is I am not redoing it. It's meant to be a one-off, and it's meant to be kind of a fun, quick little project that somebody can watch, not be too dedicated to. They can see the final thing, and if people like it, then yeah, I've got options for you to get one. But since I am not making them perfectly perfect, they're meant to be goofy, I have a little bit more freedom and it gets to be a little bit more fun and shows that people can just kind of work with stuff without thinking too much about it. But the thing is, it still takes that time. No matter how I do it, it's going to take about a day to, oh no, my thread. How did my thread break off? That figures. Probably just gonna have to repin that. I learned a long time ago I got to pull my thread down really tight, otherwise it doesn't stick. And that's some aggravation. If you're ever sewing and your thread just does not have the tension it needs, it looks like it's sewing the whole time, but the backside just pops right up. You get a knot of loose string, you got nothing finished, you spend the whole time working on a project and think you're done. I have finished entire plushes only to discover that I could pull the thread right out. Oh man, I can't tell you how pissed off that I was about that. I think I actually stopped an entire project because that happened. Like I had finished it, I was like, yay, it looks okay. Wait, why is this, what's happening here? And then I realized that it just came completely apart and I didn't work on it anymore. I was done with that project. Now I've got to figure out this part. This may be the same thing. What I may wind up having to do is just cut the body of it out. twice, sew two of them together, and then right side it out, like I would do with a plush. And then if I did that, I could do the same thing with the triangle and just kind of stick it in before I sew it, and do the same with the lapel. So that would give me finished edges. That might be what I wind up having to do with the next one. Let's see how this fits, and then we can use that as a gauge. So, all right, that's not too shabby. Let me move this back just a little bit. Turn this back on. Get this tucked in. All right, so if I hand stitch those lines together, that'll fit pretty decently. Go around the armholes if you do 2 5. Yep, I was thinking the same thing. I could probably have to do it on the outside, but I'm also thinking that since I'm going to be doing a sleeve, it might make it easier with the sleeve as well. But this size seems to work really well. It hugs the back nicely. I may be a little bit high here. That may be something that instead of going lower, if I go just a little bit tighter, because then it still hides the neck. So then what I could do, let's see, if I go just a little bit tighter, I can keep the arms in the same position. I may have to adjust the sewing here. So if I want it tighter, then I have to cut a little bit of this corner off. So it'll be a little bit of an angle here. So instead of being straight corner here, I'll have to cut that way, just a section right there. That should also give me a nice little edge here. I might not even have to worry about a separate piece for the triangle. Especially if I just make it, yeah, because if I do this, I'm making an outfit. Yeah? Oh, you want a Pokemon? Is that why you said aw? All right, so what I will do is adjust the angle right here just a little bit.
Oh, whose name?
Oh, it's a jumping mouse from Coraline. If you ask Mommy, maybe you guys can watch Coraline while I'm doing this. Mommy wouldn't mind.
Shit. It's fun.
Okay, so tighten that up. Bring this in, change the shape, 2 pieces. That'll give me a lapel, and again, I'm not sure what the word for this is, but I can cut the lapel in and fold that down, even put a little extra across it. Trying to see if I missed anything here. There we go. Okay. Any other thoughts? It seems like the back seems okay. Maybe a little bit high here, so maybe I'll cut down just a little bit towards the back. So let's fold this back down. The reason I'm keeping this folded down is it helps me know where the edge actually is. Though if I do decide to make 2 pieces sewn together, I don't actually have to worry about that, do I? I would basically just cut that as well. So let's say move that. I need a little bit lower back here. So I will bring this edge down. I don't need this any lower. Oh, but I do definitely need that top part. Because when I sew the 2 together, it's still going to do the outside. So let's go ahead and do just a little bit wider. What I'm trying to do is bring the back side so it's not up here. Additionally, if I have it too high, I won't be able to use the loop that I have for the key ring. Then I need to cut this shape just a little bit as well. So let's go ahead and pull this back. And I want it to be Let's go ahead and make a straight line here. I shouldn't need much cut off, so I'll probably cut a smaller amount. I could always re-sew it a little bit more. Because it looks to me like what I'm doing is cutting right along. Yeah, that should be fine. Now the sleeves, I feel like I don't want to do the sleeves. Like I can imagine that they're just going to be aggravating. But he kind of needs the sleeves. Could you do a hole where the ring is maybe? That way you don't have to lower it. You don't think it's too high already though? Like if I just cut it down just a little bit, say right around here, I think that would be enough for me to get to the ring. But it wouldn't be so much that it changes it. I was just kind of afraid that it was a little bit too high anyways. Let's see what happens if I pull it tighter. If I pull it tighter, no, it doesn't pull it down very much at all. And I think with the sleeve, I may wind up having to sew it on and then sew it closed. That one I may have to, I'll have to hand stitch that. What I'll do is I'll cut the sleeve and I'll hand stitch so the seam stays on the inside. I keep forgetting I don't have to machine sew everything. Even if I keep this pattern, I don't have to worry about everything being machine sewn. Now the next question is, should I just bring this down instead of cutting an extra piece? So if I bring this, straighten this out right here, so that both of them line up, this automatically comes out like what I want. So maybe I can just cut right here, maybe make it a little bit wider since I'm doing the two pieces together. That might be a little bit easier than trying to adjust this in or trying to make this line up like that. So instead what I'll do is I'll have the piece here. This will line up nicely. Then I'll have my triangle here. Yeah, I think that makes a little bit more sense. Yeah, I think I'll do that. So let's look and see what we've got here. We're going to do a couple of adjustments on my sketch, my so-called pattern, if it can so be called. Oh, look, see, that's how different that is. And I already know that I have to cut that in. So I'm going to cut this angle all the way to the edge. I will cut a line here. So it's going to go, let's see if I can get this pretty close. And I've got here, I don't know if you can even see what I'm working on. All right, let's see how this works out. Oops, I need to cut both of them the same. Cut this. What I will do is cut it just a little bit wide. And then again with this. So that should lower my back. I will cut two pieces like this, and then I will figure out the sleeve afterwards, which will be hand sewn. We'll see how this works out. I'll get as much of this scrap out of my way as I can. And then, nope, don't want my needles in the way either. Apparently I got some pin on you. That's a bummer, but that's okay. I know how it happened. It won't happen in the future. Once I get the pattern figured out, I don't have to worry about things like that happening. But I do have a couple thoughts. First off, I am just over 4,000 followers now, which first, I'd love to say thank you. And my wife and I came up with an idea of I'm going to make a mouse. And I'm going to have that as a giveaway. I'm going to do a post, have people comment on it. People who comment on it will be entered into the giveaway, that kind of thing. Anybody who's ordered from me that also comments, I will go through some extra steps to make sure they get like extra votes or something like that. One of the things I've been trying to do is give stuff to people that when they buy stuff, because obviously, thank you. But I'm also noticed that last time when I did a giveaway post, almost nobody saw it. I had to post like 4 times in order to get any kind of response to it. And I don't know if that's because I was still new, if I wasn't doing something right, if the algorithm thought it was something totally new, so they didn't push it forward. But if you're looking, keep an eye out. If you're on my page, I'm going to be doing a giveaway again. And I might do more giveaways because of 4,000 is a big number for me. And if I do, then I will discuss it with everybody and kind of take a vote. Now, the relevance to that is when I am done with this mouse, I might do the same thing. It's not going to be a perfect mouse because I was still figuring out some stuff with it, especially because of what I'm doing with the outfit. But in the end, I might give this one away with the outfit that we worked on together. So if you are interested, definitely follow me. Send me some messages. I always check the messages on here when I get off. So I am sorry that I don't see them when I'm actually here. But you can feel free to message me directly, or you can message here while we're on live, and I will see it. So give me your votes. Let me know what you think. Free stuff is nice. I'm not rich. It's not like I've got such a huge following that TikTok is paying me for everything. But every now and then, I think it's a lot of fun to do something and say as a thank you for everyone that gives me any of their time. I like the idea of showing gratitude. I just don't know the best way to do it sometimes. I think, yeah, that should be fine for the whole too, because what we're going to do, like I said, I'm going to make the sleeves separate. And when I do, I'm just going to hand stitch it on. I'll just have to figure out how I want to do the sleeve as well. I'll probably wind up doing 2 pieces like I'm doing with this, so the material's thick and strong. And just like when I did the cloak for my mouse recently, let me show you what I'm talking about. When I did the cloak here, I added the second layer, the second flap, to make it like a collar. I actually hand stitched that on there. So that's not too hard to do. It's actually a little bit easier to hand stitch something small than it is to use the machine on these. Ooh, let's see. I think you can just make sure you have the means to do so. Don't stretch or stress yourself. I intend to. And I figure the thanks is only relevant when it's, when I don't screw myself over. And that's why I talked with my wife to kind of come up with an idea. But it's important to me to do little things like that. I know that that's not going to change how people see me. But at the same time, it makes me feel better. And I think that that's important. Doing nice things for people when I can has always been part of my process of living. And trying to do something nice without asking anything in return. In this case, the closest I'm coming to ask for anything in return is to say, hey, look, if you want to be entered, you're going to have to comment on one of these particular posts. Which, yes, benefits me. The algorithm says, hey, he's got a whole lot of views and posts. But it's not the same thing, because I don't think there's ever going to be a situation where TikTok says, oh, you need to be paid for what people are seeing. Especially since I think they took that away. I think that they have changed the way that they've set everything up so that people don't get paid just for views. But the support will be helpful. And me showing thanks will mean something to me. I say that on top of that, just the other day, I had someone message me saying that they wish they could have one of my plushes. And then as we were talking, I was like, well, you can definitely buy one. They mentioned they are from a country that has like all the digital payments banned. In addition to the fact that I can't ship overseas. I shipped something to Hungary, maybe a month or two ago. And even one of these tiny mice, because it was just a mouse about this size, but it was a strawberry mouse. And it cost like 80, 70 bucks to get it out there. I had charged them with the estimate that it was going to be like 35. So in order to just complete it, I wanted to make sure they got it. I wanted just making $5 on the plush. I was like, you know what? I'll take the money that you've already paid me. I want to make sure it gets shipped to you. And that felt like a nice thing to do. I suppose that Phoebe was right, though. There are no selfless good deeds. That's right. I'm talking about Phoebe Buffet, talking to Joey. All right, now the next question. Let's see. If I sew if I sew this together first. Let's go ahead and move all this out of the way again. If I sew down the back first, I can right side it out. Let's get the pen side there. And then I can sew the whole outside together. I just have to make sure I line it all up. My fabric shifted on me when I drew my pattern. Some light. I'm probably not going to worry too much about back stitching here. And then I go and back stitch. I wasn't even thinking, just habit now. Then we'll do the same thing here. My thinking is that this is going to make everything have the same shape. I don't have to worry about trying to close off that wedge after it's all together. Okay. I also shouldn't have to worry too much about this extra thread, but it's something I do. Call it like a habit or a pet peeve. The idea of having these loose like that. Now, have my outside. See, I've got that outside wedge there. Have my outsides together. I should be able to keep that for the triangle on the bottom. I will do the collar later. From this, I should be able to tell if I even need to. I might end up being able to just bring that up the same way I was doing this, and then fold it down, maybe iron it or something like that. I'm just trying to figure out my direction of attack. I think what I'm going to do is leave the bottom section right here open. So I'll sew all the way around like it was a normal plush, and then right side it out from that point, and maybe do some closing stitches. I just have to make sure I get everything lined up pretty well. The material is going to shift on me pretty much no matter what I do. I just have to make sure it's close enough where everything is still doing what I want it to do. I'm trying to do it on camera so that you can see what I'm talking about. I think I am going to pin it. It's small enough where I don't really want to deal with it deciding to be a pain. So we have here, I'll just a few little pins in the corners maybe. Just enough to hopefully hold it in place. That should be able to let me see the last of the details that we need to worry about. I can take these pins as I go. I can take them out as I go, so that's not too bad either. All right, so I'll start here. One of the things that's going to happen is if this was a bigger vest, all the subtle curves and turns would be a lot more predominant. Right here, I already know that this little curve right here is going to be hard to see. It's the same thing on this part right here. So I'm doing my best to follow it so that it maintains the shape that I really want. But I have a feeling I'm going to lose a lot of that shape as I go. With the option of hand stitching, that might be something that goes away. But but we won't know what it's going to look like anyways until I finish here. That should be the dip on the top of the back. Another part that we're not even sure how it's going to look. There we go, just a little bit better. I am still sewing very close to the edge. This material, I probably could use a zigzag stitch and take it off the edge of the material. And that might be what I do in the end. But for the time being, I'm not super worried about trying to get this version of it perfected. This is mostly about getting the shapes right. Figuring out the last of the details that I need to adjust for. And this is going to fray a lot, but that's fine. Get my... I know I have one over here. Just have to get a new... There we go. Okay, so... in the future, I could probably leave one of the armholes open. Instead of having this section, I can just sew all the way around and pull it out through the armhole. I didn't think about that until just now. But that should allow me to do the same thing as what I'm doing here. And give me the benefit of having the entire edge a nice clean stitch. Okay. I do have to be a little bit careful. I don't want to like push too hard and rip through all the fabric. It's so close to the edge that I'm sure that that's going to be something it wants to do. You can already see it's trying to come back through on the armholes. Come on, you can do it. I'm trying to be both delicate and forceful. I have to push it all the way through, but if I push too hard, it's so close to the edge that I'm afraid it's just going to fray the whole thing out. This is such a weird thing to be doing live. I'm already like hesitant to do this on my own because I know it takes so long. Oh, that should be both my arms. There we go. Gotta get all my edges out. Some of these projects that I've done in the past where I've had to make them several different times, I literally just had like a group, a whole like bunch of different heads sitting on my desk while I was working. I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and close that up. See what it does. You know what? I might as well just go ahead and try it through the sleeves. I mean, I'm here, might as well. It's not much of a difference for saving time. So anybody watching this, have you decided that this is not quite the thrilling adventure that it might have been? I think what I'm going to do for future versions of this is much like I did with the mouse. I will have a pattern that I have developed and put together. And then from that pattern, I will make the final version of something. There's a chance, I've been thinking about making a Cthulhu for a while. And I think that that would be a really fun kind of weird Wednesday project. I also thought about making demons or like monstrous mouth bags, which I can't describe fully without drawing them. But imagine a black and red mass of teeth that you could wear around your hip or across your shoulder, your chest, and it would just be a bag that looks like a plush mouth. Nope, this is my favorite thing to watch. Plus, you're the only one I truly watch live. The rest I get bored. Well, that's wild. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Especially since I always picture that just sitting here talking bores people. But here we go. Look, I was able to get it through the sleeve. We have basically the shape we need. I may have to iron this down. I may have to make this edge a little bit bigger. I've got my pattern still. All right, wish me luck on this one. Okay. I did some adjustments on it. See, that went lower. We like that. So the back part went low enough. So, oops, sorry. Yep, you're not in the same place that you were a minute ago. So the back part went lower, so I can still see the little metal loop. I think I kind of lost my corner. But if I sew that together, let's see, pull this down. If I sew these two edges to get together, it's pretty darn close to what we're aiming for. I may have to make the neck a little bit thinner as well. This is not far off. There's obviously some adjustments that need to be made. But we can already tell what's working a little bit better here. So I need to make that a little bit straighter. Maybe make the back. No, I think the back's fine. I think basically what happened here is I have to bring the corner out just a touch more. Let's draw that up real quick. So if I have, this is how I've got my pattern so far. So I want this to stop at a certain point. So we'll start right about here. I want the edge to come out just a little bit more. I don't think I need to worry about shortening this. I think that if this was tighter, no, I don't think tighter is the problem here. I may have to bring the collar down a little bit more, but I'm not sure. I think keeping the collar right about here actually works pretty well. It is a little bit high, but that just hides the neck a little bit, and that's not too shabby. Especially since what we're going for has pretty much no neck. So hiding that neck's not going to be a problem. Let's see, trying to show what I'm working towards here. So if I bring this corner out, maybe shorter right here by just a touch. No, that's right. We just decided that wasn't. I may have to sew this onto them at the back too. Like a few little hand stitches so that it connects the shirt to the outfit or the body. I do think that maybe, man, I'm really torn. If I just make, instead of changing where this goes, because that looks kind of nice. It comes out like I want. It's got that shape. So it's got the little triangle at the bottom already. I think maybe instead of changing the shape of this, if I just change the length and look right here. So I'll bring this collar in just a little bit higher. I go ahead and make some changes here. And then if I bring this in just a teeny bit more, then what I'll have is a straight line here. I'll have a straight line right here. I can sew the two of those together, get a nice little jib. I believe jib was the right word. Oh, thank you both. Thank you both. I'm glad. Okay, I need that feedback. Thank you so much, Cat B and Spaz. Okay, so that's not too low. Then the next question. All right, if I bring this here and I bring out the collar to do pretty much the same thing here, what do you think of that? The collar will be part of it. I'll sew that in. So it'll be part of the same material and it can be folded down. I think that would be a good idea. I'll just have to redraw some of my pattern a little bit. I'll take off just a tiny bit at the front. And I think that would actually cure both the issues that we have. And the last thing will just be the details, like sewing on the yellow and the buttons. And figuring out the sleeves. And the sleeves should be really easy. That's probably just going to be a strip of material. I just have to get it the right length. I will sew it together the same way I did this, and then just hand stitch on the inside so that you won't be able to see the frayed ends. And then with everything put together, I don't have to worry about him taking it on and off, but there's a chance that I might be able to make it so that it does come on and off. If that's the case, I'll have to have like a pin right here to hold it in place. But I think that should actually help out quite a bit. Again, just bringing in this just a little bit more, just make sure it's a straight line. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that. I've got plenty of this red material, so I've got enough space to do a few mistakes. And then I just need to put a triangle up here. And I'll have to cut it pretty wide so that the seam doesn't cause it to disappear. This one came pretty close to disappearing, so what I may do is make that a little bit bigger too. I think that that's something I will do. I will add just a little bit more right here. So I'm going to make this wedge a little bit bigger, and then I'm going to add the collar at the top. Do we like the back? Does that seem okay to you guys? Especially since it has to come down over this. I'll have to make sure I bring that all the way in. Maybe I'll make the wedge a little bit wider too, so I've got more material to latch onto. Back is great. Awesome. Thank you, Catby. I can already see how that's trying to take that collar shape. So I think that that's going to work out pretty well. I just have to make sure. It's going to be hard figuring out the exact angle for it. But even if it's not perfect, it'll get me pretty darn close. All right, let me find my paper again. Yep, got to make sure I get it wide enough. Move all this stuff out of the way. Let's just get my pins out here. So if you're ever doing something like this at your own, keep in mind, it's just going to take that many tries. Okay, now, line this up. Get my sketch going. I'm just going to trace exactly as is, and then adjust from there. When I trace this, it is going to make it a fraction of an inch bigger. Like the tiniest bit, but I should be able to adjust from there anyways. Oh, I wanted, let's see, I got my, sorry, oops, there we go. Got that lined up. I'm going to put my lines here and here. I'm going to want this to be just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go ahead and draw out here. And I'll add just a little bit of a curve. I think the curve will help. It's not going to change, shouldn't change it too much. And then I wanted another curve here. So let's go ahead and add this. Actually, I'm going to make it stiff and then curve down. I may have to make this quite a bit bigger. I'm going to lose about this much. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So if this is my line, Oh, let me make sure I do this a little bit bigger too. That'll give me a little bit more space to sew that. All right, so if this is the one what I'm cutting out, I'm going to lose about this much of it. So everything's going to move in just a little bit. It's something you got to keep in mind whenever you're making a pattern. And I think that should be okay. With the size of what I'm working on, that should be an okay change. And again, it's the same thing's going to happen here. And this has already got roughly the shape that I want, but adding just a little bit more should let me see if I have to do anything else. And I could always use like a different stitch to kind of get it to curl up a little bit more. But even on here, it doesn't look like it's curled up. It just looks like it's hanging down. I may wind up having to do a little bit longer on the neck because it kind of looks like there's a collar all the way around it. So we'll decide maybe together if I need to add the whole thing. And if that's the case, that's an easy adjustment from this step to the next. Okay. Get this cut out pretty quickly, and then we'll get that next part done. Again, that part I made a little bit wider because I wanted to, hold on a second. Because I want to get a little bit more material to hold for the thread to hold on to on the back. So I don't have a seam break like this again. It's kind of hard to see, but it's definitely there. And it's mostly because I just didn't sew quite enough to the edge. All right, I'm going to write first on here. Now, one of the things I suggest is don't get rid of these. You may find that you made too much of an adjustment on your second one and you need to reference your original. I've had that happen several times. And because I threw it away, I had to make adjustments on my second. Now, this one I probably won't need again, but if I have it and don't need it, it's definitely better than needing it, not having it. I know some of you know exactly what that's in reference to. And I will probably try and round that out just a little bit when I sew it as well. Fold this, get my nice little cut started. I'm going to go directly from this to cutting some more. I'm just going to go directly to the material one more time. This might be my last attempt while we are live today. And then I will make some adjustments on to the next one. I'm already thinking, unless somebody has a request, that I will do either a demon or a cute Thulu. That's right, I said cute Thulu. I had some ideas in my head for doing that. I could even use like a pink material. I made a slow poke not too long ago, and when I made the body, I was like, you know, that's not too bad of a body for a few other things. So I'll probably use that as a reference. And let's see how this turns out. Move my junk out of the way again. The cute Thulu is an awesome idea. Awesome, thank you. Okay, that's probably what I'm going to wind up doing. Maybe I'll post some sketches and kind of see what people think in the process. So do keep an eye out. Now, I can't guarantee I'm going to do the Weird Wednesdays every Wednesday. And I say that because I'm already like trying to make sure I don't fall behind on orders. I'm trying to make sure that I'm making new stuff and having fun with my projects. But also there's so many things that keep happening. I live in Oklahoma, so I've got Oklahoma weather, which means that I might have tornadoes. I also might get power outage because I am not in the middle of town. I am about 12 minutes outside of town. And sometimes just a regular storm just causes power outages between internet and my entire electricity. That's not to mention the fact that I've got a 4-year-old who is not always the best at sleeping. And I'm not always the best at sleeping because, you know, I tend to want to just do stuff sometimes. Now, once again, I know it looks like I'm cutting out some masks, which is kind of funny. But what I'm going to do is I'm cutting out 2 of the vest so that I can sew them together and then right side them out. it looked a lot nicer than trying to do an outward stitch. Let me show you the difference here. So instead of having a stitch all along the outside to fold the edge, I had a nice clean little edge because I folded them together outside. Sorry, sewed them together outside and then folded right side out. And that's much cleaner looking and makes it look a little bit more fancy to me. So what I'm doing here is the same thing. Let me find where I've already started. I've made some adjustments to get a nice little lapel. I've got hopefully a nice, I want to say tail. I keep thinking tail, but I know that's not right. The tail is obviously on the back. So what is the front version of the tail on this outfit? This the little triangles that come down at the front where the zipper would close up, or I guess start. I have not been making clothes long enough to even have the faintest idea what that would be called. All right, I know my fabric shifted on me there. It's going to be annoying, but I'd already planned on that, and it happened on the first one, and it didn't do too bad. So here's hoping that it's going to be the same on this. I'm trying to make sure I cut out all my little curves. It's amazing how much of a difference just a subtle curve will make whenever you're sewing something together. And I know that if I was doing something bigger, I wouldn't have to worry in the same ways. But I also don't know what difference it will make. It might not make a difference. Once again, one of the things I was discussing earlier, if you are watching this and you are slightly interested, let's say you like the Coraline mouse. Let's say you really like what I've done with the jumping mouse. Or maybe you just like the idea of having the mouse that you watch me make. Send me a follow. Send me a message if you'd like. And when you see me posting about this, definitely comment on it, because I'm probably going to wind up giving away this mouse. Maybe I'll ask for like shipping. But you might wind up with a Coraline circus mouse. And what's funny is in my head, I also had this idea. Somebody wins it, and instead I send them a circus rat. I do make rats as well. So it'd be kind of funny that instead you got the Coraline rat. Like when the cat killed the circus mouse. And then if you're a Coraline fan, that would be even weirder to me. Like, not weirder, even more fun. Of course, I'm a weirdo, so maybe not. Maybe someone would be really angry that they didn't get the jumping mouse that they wanted. And if that's the case, I can always adjust according to that too. But I think that'd be kind of a funny little thing to do. Just a little prank almost. And then hopefully next week, on Wednesday, my Weird Wednesday, I will show this mouse in its completion. And I will start working on a cute Thulu. My goal is to diversify a little bit from what I've been working on. I've been working on making mice for so long because that's what people have seen the most of, and it's gotten really popular. That's the first thing that blew up on my TikTok. I don't think it quite qualifies as viral until it hits like multiple thousands or millions. But it was the first thing that all of a sudden my phone was just blowing up from TikTok. In fact, that's the reason I had to turn off my alerts. And it was so awesome that people got rallied behind it and had so much fun with it. And I've made so many fun plush mice. Let me show you what I'm referring to. These mice, which are all made so that you can wear them. They even has the key ring on the back. But I started making so many of these that I realized that people didn't know what else I did make. And I also realized I wasn't getting to experiment and have the time to do random stuff as well. Well, immediately after I started, I found that people actually liked the other stuff that I was making as well. I'll show you here in a second one of the things that I've been doing. So on Mondays, I am a fan of Pokemon, and my son is too. I started making goofy Pokemon. This is not a Snivy, and this was requested by someone who was in the chat just a little bit ago. Their name is Spaz Prince, and it was great to be able to make this. I have a whole pile of nearly finished goofy Charizards, fat boy Charizards over there from a bunch of orders. So making some new weird stuff on Wednesday has kind of reinvigorated me and gave me a little bit more fun that I can have as well. So if you have some ideas, you've seen some of the stuff that I make, you're kind of curious as to what I do in other angles, send me a message. I'm more than happy to work with somebody. Find out what kind of fun things I can make that would really get people interested. Try to get all the one sides of the pen mark on the outside. I'm going to go ahead and pin this. Oh, before I do, I need to sew my back up. Again, as much as I can do with the machine, the better. Now, what I did was I increased the amount of material here on this wedge to try and avoid it blowing out on me. So I've got this piece that's messed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm trying to sew it the exact same amount. So I'm going to sew it pretty low. In fact, what I can do is use a mark. That'll help out a lot. Put this here. I can put a little mark where the original one ended. And that'll help me know how deep I need to go with it. And it'll give me still, like I said, the extra material there. Now, if I wind up liking this, if I need to, I can always just cut a little tiny hole where I need it to go. And then I can just use that same hole for my pen mark when I go to the next one. And I saw you, Cat B, say, we'll turn it into something special. The truth of the matter is, I honestly think that I need to give it to one of you for being so supportive. You've been here on several of my lives, and you've interacted with me, and it's been so nice having someone that I know is going to show up, and it's kind of thrilling. And I think that would be a great way to show you guys how much I appreciate it. What I'll do is I'm going to go back. There's one or two other people that have interacted with me a lot. So maybe what I'll do is set it up in a way that one of you will get the jumping mouse and maybe the rest of you will get the rat. We'll have to talk that out. Come up with a plan. With Spaz, I have they ordered the Snivy, and I started putting some buttons together to include with it. Because I think, yeah, I have their mouse here. I still haven't sewn on the butt. I haven't sewn on the tail. But these are going to be going to the same place. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Are you there? Can you hear me? No. I can hear my son in the other room trying to talk to me. I just don't know if he's watching. And let's see. We'll get everything lined up. I'm really glad you do, Spaz. I don't always get feedback. So what happens is I don't expect feedback, just to be clear. I don't expect someone to order something to tell me if they like it or not. But what winds up happening is every now and then I get in my head about it and I worry, did I do something wrong? Did they not tell me because they didn't like it? Did they get it in person and be like, I paid for this? Could you order one of what? A cute Thulu, a jumping mouse? Whatever it is, yes. I guarantee you can order it. I just don't know what you're referring to at this exact moment. I'm going to go ahead and start just a little bit low. So I'm not directly in the corner to start this because I don't want it to get caught up. And now that we know that I can go through the sleeve, I can actually just go ahead and sew the whole thing, so that'd be kind of nice. If you didn't notice right there, I was turning the knob to stitch one at a time because I didn't want to accidentally sew off the edge. I kind of feel like I'm just getting a curve in the back now. I think I had it oddly shaped where it went up and then back down at first. But kind of looks like it's just a curve now. Which shouldn't be a problem. And let's see. Hello, Rami. Could I order jumping mouse? Yeah, definitely. Not only that, but it doesn't have to be a Coraline jumping mouse. It could be a clown jumping mouse, too. Or a witch. You made me get back into sewing, and I made a quilt bed for my... That's fantastic! I sure hope you share that with me so I can at least see. I want to see the puppy on it, too. It's the only way I'm going to know that it's truly for the puppy. I had somebody tell me the same thing about leatherwork. That they saw some of what I was doing and saw that I didn't have it all perfected and it wasn't a perfect workspace. And they said it inspired them to get back into leatherwork. So you kind of just made my day with that. And that was fantastic. And I definitely want to see some of what you're doing. Okay, now if I get a nice little curve here, I won't have that divot right at the center of the back. I had already tried to adapt for this collar, but I think I still have to make it a little bit bigger. We should find out here in just a moment, though. Get these out of the way. I don't know if I've mentioned it before. I'm sure I have. Lopsided, but first off, lopsided means that you put effort into it. The very first blanket I made was for my nephew. Went shortly after he was born, I think. And I am absolutely sure that it was not straight at all. We're going to find out if I'm even coming close to straight for this outfit, too. I'm going to get all the extra thread out of the way because it's going to drive me crazy otherwise. Don't lose my pattern. All right, get this out of the way. Here's my mouse. All right, so the first time I left an opening here to kind of right-side it out. This time, what I'm going to do, I've found that with corners, I have to make sure that I don't have excess material. I don't want to cut too short because this material will fray, and since I don't have a zigzag to hold it in place, which, by the way, I could do. And if this pattern works, in order to keep it from blowing out in the future, I might. I'll sew it, cut it, and then do a zigzag right there to make it stronger. I've also learned that when there's a curve, if you just cut little slits, it helps the fabric keep from binding up and bunching up, and it'll actually take that curve a lot nicer. I learned that doing like the feet of the Charizards or the ears on another plush. The less material that is here in this corner, the less thick it'll feel. And I'm still just cutting these little slits right around the curves. Again, I can always do the zigzag afterwards. That is not something that I have to worry about one way or another, especially on the prototypes that I'm doing right now. I've thought about that. I only recently saw those. Now, I don't know the benefits of them. I think that they're supposed to help keep it from fraying. But because I am all self-taught, I literally only recently saw zigzag scissors for the first time maybe a month ago. And I keep forgetting about them and thinking that I should look into them, but haven't. But it's definitely a good point. Somebody also mentioned using like water soluble pen instead of the markers or the pen that I'm using. I use just a normal pen. Oh, well, look, we got a blesser. Let's go ahead and remove you. I got to make sure I got the right one. Nobody follow that guy. Block account. Confirm. Report. With this keyword. No, not people. No. I think that did it. Block account. I'm trying to make sure. I'm technically a free. Yeah, there we go. Excellent. Your phone died. I'm sorry. I don't think you missed anything, Spaz. I'm still trying to get this new one tucked into that armhole. Yeah, I think that's what they always say is like they're sending money in blessings. But I'm sure you've got to send them like your social security number, blood type. I really don't know what the scam is there. I know they're aiming to get your money. I just don't know how. And this is, let's see, looks like the collar needs to come out a little bit more. Yeah, I think, oh, wait, nope, there it is. I just didn't take the angle on it, right? And so now I've got a collar. I've got that bottom. Did anybody, was I not supposed to send him my information? You can definitely send all you want, Vlad. Don't let anybody ever discourage your dreams. My suggestion, though, is not to do that. Vlad and I have been playing video games for at least 4 years. I've never met him because he's very selfish and won't send me all the money I need to fly to California. I did it once as I don't know, it was a scam. They go through Bitcoin and take your money. Yeah, I figure they tell you to buy Bitcoin and then they'll reimburse you. Don't you talk to them like that, Vlad. I don't appreciate them lies. But I don't know if I would consider it a lie. All right, here we go. We're going to see. Looks like that arm is a little bit tight. That's fine. I can make it bigger next time. We got a nice line up here. The collar seems to be working. I got this back. I may have to move the collar forward just a little bit because it's kind of hitting the arm. Looks like the front of the vest will sit like I want it to sit. I'm almost done. You shut your face. All right, so I got the front looks like it lined up nicely. The back seems like it's doing what I need it to do. I even got it low enough so that the ring can still come through. Yes, that's almost exactly what we're going for. This is the Coraline mouse, the design that we're looking at. And it's somewhere between circus and bellhop. I think the hat makes me think bellhop more than the outfit. But, let's see, we got the collar. I just need to move the collar forward. And I think that will actually work really well too. In fact, let's go ahead and do a quick stitch. Let's cut this off. I was sewing up a whole bunch of Charizards, so still got orange thread on here. Get this red off. No, come on. I think this is where we're going to wind up ending the night. But it also looks like we made quite a bit of progress. Especially in just, what, an hour and a half? I also made potato balls with mozzarella in them, and then black bean meatballs because we're trying to do diety, so we're like avoiding meats. But I haven't had a chance to eat yet. So hopefully that'll still be good. All right, the stitch is a little bit wide, so what I'm going to have to do is double up, pull that tight. Now I'm going to sew straight down the middle. Can you see what I'm doing? I think you can see just enough. Just a little, the same stitch I would use if I was attaching a head or the arm or something else to it. And I'm just sewing the ends together. All this stuff in the way. Pull it nice and tight. I got to make sure I do the top layers so that it hides the inner seam. What may wind up happening is this may wind up being strong enough that I can slip it over his head. So it could be something that if you were to have one of these, you can go with or without the outfit. And let's see where this lands here. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lizard and Rami. Oh, I definitely will. Lizard, the reason he doesn't have eyes yet is because I'm just going to add them last. But we're going to do button eyes. I've even got a whole bunch of buttons here. But we're aiming for the coraline look. I just thought it would be a little bit easier to do a lot of these steps without the eyes being on already. Because otherwise, like, the thread will get caught up. And I've already got so many different things that the thread's going to get caught up when I'm working on. So it tries to get caught on the arm. And if I do it smoothly, if I do the ladder stitch, like you mentioned, Rami, if I do the ladder stitch just right, it shouldn't show up at all. It'll just look like a nice little seam in the middle. The good news is I don't have to worry about it being perfect on this one. I still have at least one more version of this I have to make. All right, I think that works out pretty well. Go ahead and close this stitch off. I'm going to back stitch it just a little bit in the process. I have found that putting a back stitch makes it seem a little bit stronger. The downside is that it also means that I might not hide it as well. So I'll have to figure out the balance for this guy. And then I'll stick that through. Hide the knot. Tie this off so I don't lose it. All right, so I think that the collar works really well like this, so I can definitely do it. I'm just going to have to slide it forward and make it a little bit shorter. I think once I get it pulled down to the right length, we've got a nice little clean front here. I've got the ends. I'll go ahead and hide this here. So I've got those ends. I think that those look good. I think the way that it hugs the body is okay. I might have to do a little bit of adjustment. Make it just the tiniest bit shorter maybe, so it doesn't bunch up. I'll move the collar forward. So let's go ahead and figure that out. So I want the collar to go forward. Let me see, where's my paper at? Do I have enough room here? I do not, so I'll fold this way in half. Nope. Okay, so I have Oh, let's see what how the back did. Yeah, that looks nice. So I can definitely make sure that I put a little dot on the back. There we go. Let's see if I missed anything here. I'm just scrolling back a little bit. Thank you, Remy. The legs took a lot of work to get there. You can see this was my failed attempts. This is where I started. That was a lot of steps to kind of get those legs to the right point. And I think I made another adjustment to make this part a little bit smaller to try and move them in a little bit more. But even if they don't, I think that this is a great shape for them. All right, so I've got, let me trace this real quick. I think the bottom works really well. So this is good. Oops, that's not what I meant to do. Awesome. I think that I'm a little bit hesitant about this, but I'm going to wait until I get the collar right before I even worry about it. And the reason I'm hesitant is exactly what you guys were talking about, is it might just show too much of the back. But it might be something that I'm worrying too much about. Because for the most part, people are going to see it from the front, and they're going to hang it from the back if they use that at all. But let's see. We got the collar here. Nope, let me get my inside sleeve. All right, so let's say use this as a reference. Where did I put my collar here? I think I put it there. So I've got the bottom. So my collar starts right about here. Probably goes to here. So what I'll need to do, I want this to be straight anyway. So let's go ahead and ruler that. It's not much of a difference, but if I just kind of get a straight line there, it'll help out. All right, so I got a simple straight line. I want to move the collar. Let's see. If I'm looking at this right, it'll be on this side. I want to move it forward, so we definitely want to go here. And I want it to be shorter. So I think like this. That should clear it of the arms. Should give me a good shape. Let's go ahead and make it just a little bit wider. Just here, make sure I've got my point here that I cut out. Make the arms just a little bit wider. My tail, you guys like this shape? I think that fits pretty well, right? Or is it too big maybe? If it's too low, I can make it smaller. But I think that that size shows pretty well. My mouse is not quite as fat and rounded. I don't have quite as much of a belly on mine. So I think that that kind of looks okay as is. Okay, cool. Thank you, Spaz. All right, so I'm going to leave that part the same. Now, anyone who's been watching sees all the aggravation that goes into just making such small adjustments. I think that the front worked out really well. I'm glad we had the idea of sewing two pieces together because that's so clean. It looks so much nicer. And it'll look even nicer once I do the better version of it. Thank you, Cat B. All right, so now we'll have the collar moved forward. That should put it down at about here. I can then do embroidery for like right across the front. I'm not sure how I will do that. I've got some material that I've used to make some fancy gold stuff, but I might see if I can just find some thicker embroidery material that's gold and I can just stitch it on. I might also just use yellow. So it kind of gives me a few different options there. I'm not sure. I don't think I can sew this all together and then embroider it. But let's see what happens if I try and take it off of him. Yeah, it looks like he'll let me take it off. So maybe I can sew it together and get this to fit just inside my machine like this and do like an embroidered little loop right here. Yeah, I thought about the gold thread doubled up too. I do that when I do something like, for example, right here, I do that for the eyes. There's something else that oh yeah, when I do the noses. So if I do the nose, I do that 4 times. But I'm also not super great at embroidery. Like it's taken me forever just to get triangle shaped noses. And if I can find a way to get this to fit into my machine, which I might be able to do, kind of tense like this, maybe pin it to something else, I can do just a simple little line. And that might work out really well, especially once I get the sleeve on here, because then I don't have to worry about it peeling off this. I think this came together pretty nicely, and I've figured out how to make clothes for my mice. So that might be something new I start adding. I mean, I already do like the cloak, but I've been trying to figure out how to make outfits for them. And I mean, obviously it's too big for them, but the idea wouldn't be too much different. All right, so we made some pretty decent progress on this. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish up the vest and the hat. That might work. Oh my God, yes, make an army of my... Yes, I definitely will. I recently had this idea from this. What I think I'm going to do is I'm going to make a wizard, a paladin, like give him armor. I might make like an assassin or something else. And then I'm going to make like the big bad, like it's a whole D&D party. So like 3 or 4 good guy mice and then 1 bad guy mouse. Exactly, D&D mice. Make one like a hobbit, so it'd be like super small, like the Minnie Mouse. And maybe what I can do is look up different types of mice so I can give different shapes of ear. Maybe the good guy or the bad guy can be a jumping mouse. All banded together to stop a rat, maybe. All right, I'm going to write down second on... Oh, no, this is the first. I need second on here. And then third. Once again, that way I don't have to worry about starting over. I've got all the previous ones. And if you hadn't noticed, it's helped out because I was able to do some marks for some of the other stuff. Like, for example, the center of the back where I need to make sure that I sew it to. Cut my wedge, and then I will cut just a little spot right here. That way I can mark it and know how deep I need the wedge to sew into it. And I've got the excess material there. And I think that's pretty much all I need to worry about. So today, let me get all my trash out of the way here. Today we had 3 attempts. Let me go ahead and put this back on here. Well, let's look at the attempts. We had attempt number 1. Was a good start. Let us know where we were headed. Attempt number 2. Try and get the right sides here. Let us know that we're on the right path. So from 1 to 2. And then we ended up with a pretty decent nearly final version. I don't even have to go through and do an edge stitch along this to clean it up. But I think this is where we're going to end for the night. I'm going to work on this a little bit over the next couple days while trying to make sure I finish up on my orders. I've got a whole pile of charge over there. But I think that this is going to be pretty nice. And then I'll do the hat later. I've already got some plans on how I'm going to do that. I will plan to do a cute Thulu and show the final version of this next week. And if it's not next week, it'll be the week after. I promise I will be trying to do everything as best I can without burning myself to death. But hopefully, you guys had some fun. Got to see what the process was. We get all this on camera. And I will see you guys either Monday or next week. Have a good one.